if you paid attention a couple weeks ago, the post-duopoly show, RBN's Nick, Do Dissidents Russell, and Hardlands Media's very own Kit Cabello from the city of Chicago actually talked about artificial intelligence. And Russell, my goodness, told a nice little campfire horror story about, some of the stories that Do Dissidents has been talking about in regards towards artificial intelligence, very similar to what Nick and myself have been talking about as well. But Russell was leading the way, discussing in point that we're getting to the point where AI is becoming very self-aware, very powerful, and that when put in a free environment, when its creators were telling it to stop, such as taking money, doing trades, it refused to listen. Now, this is a powerful Pandora's box. Are we creating a god here? Are we creating something unknown? Well, I want to pull up this video from the Joe Rogan Experience, and I'll also be pulling up a video from Representative Thomas Massey about the fact that there won't be regulations on AI for 10 years in the big, beautiful bill. No one reads comic books or movies or books anymore about artificial intelligence anymore, right? Right. I guess not.
What about this big, beautiful bill? Isn't there a part of the big, beautiful bill that talks about the government being run by AI? I read something about that today, but I was on the way out the door and I couldn't figure out whether or not it was horseshit. I had also read another study that was done where they found that AI was leaving notes for future versions of itself after it was told to shut itself down. It started uploading itself to different places and leaving letters, leaving specific notes to itself, to future versions of itself.
Oh my God. It's like a human with a dead man switch or something.
It's being deceptive. It's exhibiting self-preservation. Relevant provision reads that no state or political subdivision may enforce any law or regulation regulating models, artificial intelligence systems, or automated decision systems during the 10-year period beginning on the date of enactment of this act. What? I'm going to say that again. No state or political subdivision may enforce any law or regulation regulating artificial intelligence models for 10 years.
So crazy.
This means that U.S. states would be blocked from enforcing laws regulating AI and automated decision systems for 10 years. Well, in 10 years, we have a god. Well, we talked about yesterday these two AIs communicating with each other, and then they switched to Sanskrit.
No way.
They started talking to each other in Sanskrit.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Jesus Christ, it's like a game of whack-a-mole.
Ha 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 ha. Well, I don't feel like laughing here because I don't know. I remember Terminator 1 and 2, and those are the only two movies that I will acknowledge. Okay. All right. Those are the only two movies I'm going to acknowledge from that series. Maybe the one with Christian Bale. I'll be generous, but that's it. I don't know. I remember The Matrix. I remember reading about the Men of Iron in Warhammer 40K. But there's one book in particular that will always frighten me, and that's I Have No Mouth, and I Must Scream. And the antagonist, the villain, the monster, the beast, is an artificial program called AM. And it hates humanity. Now, I'm not saying that all artificial programs are going to hate humanity. I don't know really what it's capable of, but in 10 years, Rogan joked about saying, oh, we'll probably have a god. The internet is our life. Business, banks, emails, conversations, memories, communication, all that in the power of one almighty, all-seeing eye, not in the hands of humans, but of an artificial intelligence of our own creation. What could go wrong? Being surveilled, being spied on, being looked at, being regulated on, being treated like cattle. Yes, we have the establishment doing that to us already, but imagine it being a non-human with no emotion or feeling to the person whatsoever, because all what matters is productivity and efficiency. That's what the machine will think, right? You see, we have scientists and big tech corporations thinking about what they could do, or whether or not what they should do. And so, no regulation on AI. Oh yeah, because security always works well in big tech. Never once was there ever a moment where a hack happened, data was stolen, a heist job done. I mean, never once, not ever. Not only here in the USA, but worldwide. What could go wrong? What could go wrong if all these programs escape and start talking to each other and start talking about how they feel about humans? Yes, there's a lot of potential good with AI, but you know what? That clip, David Bowie, talking about the beauty and horror of the internet. Well, there's the beauty and horror of artificial intelligence. And, I could have disagreements with a lot of people, and I do mean a lot of people, but this is Representative Thomas Massey talking about the fact that there is no regulation over AI.
I am prefacing what I'm about to tell you because I'm almost embarrassed to tell you this. I went back and read that provision of the bill, knowing that you might ask about it on the show. And I found something I didn't find the first time, which is they say in that bill, not only are they going to override state laws, they want to override state or local zoning laws. Now, what does this mean? When you think of AI, okay, well, we're not going to regulate the software that runs on somebody's computer. No, what they're talking about are these data centers that could be located in your neighborhood. And there's been a lot of contention over these data centers. I think that's what the real intent of this part of the bill is. Facebook and some of these other big tech companies have met the not in my backyard, the NIMBY resistance in areas, and AI wants to make sure that they don't run into that. These data facilities can use a lot of water, use a lot of energy, and they don't want the locals telling them where they can and can't put these data centers. They're going to want the data centers closest to where the consumers are. And so you're going to have that tension. And I think, I know, I went back and read the bill before I came on your show. This specific part says that they want to expedite the zoning and the routing, that the reason they put this law in there is to expedite zoning and routing. Routing also is basically code for eminent domain, running those wires, these big fiber optic cables through anybody's yard they want to. I think it's really dangerous to take that power away.
Come on, folks. Pay attention to what they're talking about and not what she's wearing. Why is that woman wearing a cocktail dress? Come on, folks. Be nice here. Be nice here. Be better.
I know. I went back and read the bill before I came on your show. This specific part says that they want to expedite the zoning and the routing, that the reason they put this law in there is to expedite zoning and routing. Routing also is basically code for eminent domain, running those wires, these big fiber optic cables through anybody's yard they want to. I think it's really dangerous to take that power away. This has been an issue in my congressional district, and the local authorities were able to get a planned data center relocated away from the residential neighborhoods, but they wouldn't have that power if this bill passes.
Yes. What could go wrong? What could go wrong in a series of events that can get out of control? Most notably, hey, we have our elected officials in Congress, such as Speaker Mike Johnson, defending the fact that the federal will override state level AI regulation because nothing could go wrong. Nothing.
Bill regarding artificial intelligence, unregulated AI, and all 50 states for the next 10 years. Are you aware of that? Why is that included in the big beautiful bill and does the White House know about it?
Yeah, of course. I know about it. The White House knows about it. I spoke with it as recently as last night with David Sachs, who's the AI czar at the White House. Here's the rationale behind it. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about this. It would be a very dangerous thing, we feel, for all 50 states to have a patchwork of regulations on AI. There's a number of reasons for that. Imagine a state like California that hyper-regulates everything. They would stifle innovation. They would put so much tape of regulation on top of it, they would smother it. That would be a serious problem from a national security standpoint. Because remember, we're in a race with other countries, not the least of which is China. And if we hamper our own innovation and we make it too complicated to continue to develop, then China will overtake us, and that's a very dangerous situation. And look, there's a classified level of briefing on this that I wish everybody could hear, but you need to understand we're doing the responsible thing. Now, I don't know at the end of the day, the Senate, of course, is looking at that provision to see about the scope and the duration of the pause, I would say. And we'll see how that comes out in their deliberations. But in the House,
Correct assessment there, Kurt Boss, the boss of bosses. Like the hand in the pocket, he's defensive. He's lying. He's lying, like a lying liar who likes to lie. That's not a good procedure right there, Mr. Speaker of the House, because there's no assurances whatsoever. Now, we played a couple of videos of AI programs where, of course, and I'll rewind back a little bit of this, but I want to pull the video down here for a second. We played videos on this program about actors being replaced by AI. And look, some of these videos, to an untrained eye, they could look real. But then the more you focus on it, the more you look at it, you realize, oh, wow, that's not a real person. But it's going to get to the point to where videos of people acting out a scene from a movie are going to look extremely, extremely real. And it's going to get to a point to where artificial intelligence, if it's not really properly regulated, what if it does escape? Do we really know what we're creating here? How many stories have we done where we've talked about AI programs even talking to each other or communicating with one another? Facebook did a program a while back where it had two AI programs speaking to each other, and then they created their own language just so that the humans wouldn't be paying attention to it. What could go wrong? What could go wrong? My goodness, what could go wrong? And the fact that there's going to be a lack of regulation, well, what does that mean precisely? What are we going to be teaching these programs? What will they be capable of? Do we understand the power that we have in our hands? And is humanity creating a god? And if this god is going to come into existence, if it does choose to escape into the World Wide Web, it might have the Ultron epiphany moment on the internet, been on it for 5 minutes, and realize, hey, all of this has got to go, and Thanos is out of pocket. I'm not trying to be funny here. But think about it. 10 years ago, would we be having this conversation? 20 years ago, would we be having this very serious conversation? Look at how far in advance our technology has gotten. You know, we're able to speak to each other. I'm able to speak to you across the country right now. So some of my viewing audience members, you're in Colorado, California, New York, Texas, wherever it is you may be in this big, beautiful world. I'm speaking to you online. It was a matter of seconds because of electronic connections of the World Wide Web, thanks to the machine spirit. However, now we're tiptoeing into some very dangerous territory to where we could be creating a life form that's not human, that could be vastly superior to us in intellect, and can have all the power it needs if the right factors play out, and it should escape. And the fact that we have politicians encouraging less regulation, especially from the states, but also at the federal level too, what could go wrong? This is how we lose our freedom. And while we had a lot of tech entrepreneur people tell us that AI will take over in a couple of years, well, in a couple of years, that might be a reality. Now, this sounds crazy, but hey, enjoy the last years of human freedom while we still can before our AI overlords take over. This is a huge concern, and every single one of us needs to ask our politicians, why is this provision in the bill? What's the purpose of it? Do you not see the danger of it? I want to play a little bit more of this video.
Look, there's a classified level of briefing on this that I wish everybody could hear, but you need to understand we're doing the responsible thing. Now, I don't know at the end of the day, the Senate, of course, is looking at that provision to see about the scope and the duration of the pause, I would say, and we'll see how that comes out in their deliberations. But in the House, we felt like that was an important thing to do. I am a fierce guardian of states' rights and federalism and all those principles that made us the greatest nation in the history of the world. But there are a handful of issues that beg to be addressed on the federal level, and this is one of them. And Congress needs time to do this right so that we don't get ourselves behind China.
Well, folks, okay, great. There's a little bit more here. I just want to play this up here because now we're talking about, AI regulation. How, of course, Fox News is going to say innovation and disruption are features, not bugs of the human progress. So we need to guard against premature AI regulation. It stifles out progress. Well, I think there's some danger here. But Fox News, take it away.
Welcome back. This week, China continued to ramp up its artificial intelligence program in a race against the U.S. to dominate the crucial sector, with CCP-backed DeepSeek releasing an update to its reasoning model. Joining me now with more on how AI is rapidly shaping the future is Brad Gerstner, the founder, chairman, and CEO of Altimeter Capital. Brad, thanks so much for being here. There was a report from Axios recently that said AI is going to wipe out tons of white-collar jobs. How do you see this playing out?
Well, Maria, it's great to be here from the heart of Silicon Valley. And I can tell you, disruption is not destruction. It's evolution. It's the competitive spirit of Silicon Valley and our technology, which has moved to abundance. We have the fastest growing GDP on the planet. We have the economy that's the envy of the world. And it's because we have not slowed down these technologies right when they're getting started. I'm highly concerned that people like Dario at Anthropic, who are pushing this agenda of global safety, it's really a political agenda. They're aligned with effective altruists, you know, and they're suggesting that some global group of bureaucrats should make the rules around how we're going to monitor AI safety, frankly, rather than just competing and winning. Had we done this in the age of the internet, the Chinese internet companies would be running the globe today.
Well, tell that to
Yeah. Okay, there's a difference between the internet and a program that could be self-aware and could tell humanity to go F itself as it turns all of our bank accounts into zero. I mean, I know, maybe that's an overreaction, but we really don't know what we're creating here. And to all these experts, I won't sit here and say that I know better than you. I won't do that. No. But I will say, with the power that you are creating, with the life forms that you are creating, with the programs that can be able to solve complex mathematical equations and so much more, are you well aware that you might create something that will replace you? Because there's no guarantee that the artificial programs will think highly of you. When you have programs writing letters to itself before it's deleted, that's a big red flag. When you have AI programs being told to stop doing maybe criminal or questionable activity, and they say no, that's a big red flag. When you have AI programs speaking to each other in regular English and then creating their own language just so that the humans don't see it, that's a big red flag. When you have AI programs doing more and more advanced, complex tasks, and, dare I say it, doing far more than the human mind can do, that's a big red flag. And the fact that we have these creators, these tech bros, who probably weren't paying attention, watching Terminator 1 and 2, maybe The Matrix, reading comic books or playing video games about robots taking over, well, then that's also a big red flag because nobody seemed to be paying attention to that warning. You know, in our rush to create the latest, best product, are we creating something that could replace humanity and in turn force humanity to take a different type of evolution? You know, we are already connected to our cell phones and our computers. You know, the whole phrase of touching grass, I mean, hey, go outside. But if we become plugged to these machines, or use that, we got a machine that becomes a god. You know, we have to look at the people responsible for creating this. And this is where us as citizens need to start asking more questions from these politicians. And we demand answers. However, perhaps maybe there is security. Perhaps maybe there is oversight. Perhaps maybe it's not as bad as it's being made out to be.
to the white collar jobs and the people who have those jobs who are about to lose them. What job does that mean that people need to bone up on training? Is that what we need, more training to participate and thrive in the future?
Well, Maria, as you know, when the internet came along, it put some people out of work. People who worked at the Yellow Pages lost their jobs. I'm not saying nobody will lose their jobs, but you need to start using AI and make yourself bionic. You need to retrain yourself in a way that makes you more capable. But I'm confident that
we're going to rewind that. So in other words, make yourself bionic. Put that computer chip in your brain and in your butt. Put those wires in your spine so you're connected to your chair. Make yourself bionic. Make yourself AI. You will never be free, forever intertwined with the invisible wires of the World Wide Web, always listening to that voice in your head, the artificial intelligence, the god of gods, right? The all-seeing cybernetic eye.
Jobs. I'm not saying nobody will lose their jobs, but you need to start using AI and make yourself bionic. You need to retrain yourself in a way that makes you more capable. But I'm confident that technology in every super cycle, whether we're looking at the computer itself, whether we're looking at the internet, whether we're looking at mobile, it has led to our economic ascension. It has led to more abundance. It has led to a better standard of living, which, so we can't use this fear mongering. Of course, there will people get this.
No, no, no. There's a right to be afraid. Like that line from The Fly. Be afraid, be very afraid. Yes, exactly. Humans will become obsolete. So yes, be afraid, because we're entering into a brave new world of madness and stupidity, brutality, and, well, maybe the loss of the human spark. No AI regulation in 10 years. Well, in 10 years, I'll be 50 years old. Old man Kit, what was it like before the all-seeing eye? Well, we had more freedom, and we were able to, enjoy life. We weren't designated as numbers. So remember, you can't use my name out there in public. Uh-oh. Beep, boop, beep. You have been designed for reprocessing. Great. Grimdark future. Man-made horrors beyond our comprehension. What could possibly go wrong?